The shocking truth about the Book of Numbers, an epic revelation you can't unsee. There is something lurking in the shadows of the ancient pages of the Book of Numbers, something so staggering, it could turn your understanding of history upside down. What if I told you that buried within those cryptic lines are secrets that could take down kingdoms? Thin whispers speak of cursed prophecies and forbidden knowledge that men have bled for through the centuries. Imagine all the historians and theologians, scratching their heads over thousands of years, not knowing what truly lies beneath the surface. As you delve deeper, you find that every figure, date, and narrative pulse with an electric energy of anticipation, setting a stage for a dramatic revelation that no one saw coming. The Book of Numbers is like a time capsule, filled with a strange, yet vivid tapestry of figures who lived and died, forging paths through deserts and flooding histories. One moment, you can feel the scorching heat on the back of your neck, the very sand shifting like it carries the weight of the world. The next, there's a bone-chilling cold that settles deep in your bones as whispers about wanderers echo through the ages, their fates intertwined with a promise that could unravel reality itself. The numbers, they aren't just characters on a page, they're guardians of secrets, heavy burdens that have been passed down through generations. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Can you visualize the dark faces of those who sought the truth and paid the ultimate price? Every scholar has a tale of someone who got too close to the heart of this matter. One young apprentice faced dire consequences after unraveling just a single veil of this mystery. The shadows are thick, the tension taut. You start to wonder if maybe some truths should remain hidden forever. Is it worth the cost? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. But now, let us dive deeper. The night is closing in, and the more you learn, the thicker the plot becomes. Compasses spin wildly, guiding you toward revelations so profound they might blur the line between myth and reality. What if those who claim to interpret these numbers are not simply misunderstood, but pawns in a game woven by the very fabric of destiny? What awaits just beyond the horizon of understanding? What secrets might you unleash by turning just one more page? The air grew thick with tension, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for the next move. Emma stood at the precipice of knowledge, feelings of uncertainty clawing at her gut. This wasn't just another expedition, this was a collision course with forces that could obliterate the line between human existence and hidden truths. With every flicker of the candlelight, the shadows danced menacingly, and the old parchment whispered secrets long buried beckoned her deeper. She spread the pages out on the aged, wooden table, tracing the elaborate writings with her fingers. The symbols glowed faintly, an ethereal hint of the power they wielded. Emma had heard stories of lives shattered by truths hidden in the Book of Numbers, lives like that of her mentor, the one who vanished the night he deciphered a crucial passage. Follow the numbers, he had said, his voice a mix of reverence and fear. But heed the warnings. A flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned sharply, heart racing. A figure cloaked in shadow lingered at the door, barely visible under the dim light. You shouldn't be here, the figure warned, voice low but urgent, sending a jolt of panic through her. Who are you? She demanded, voice quaking despite her effort to hold it steady. They are watching, the stranger responded, stepping into the light. Emma recognized the face. It was a disgraced scholar, once a brilliant mind, now branded a cautionary tale. His eyes were wild, filled with a mix of fear and desperation. You're in over your head, girl. You think finding the truth will set you free? It will trap you. Why? What do you know? She felt the weight of his words, a lump forming in her throat. He leaned closer, eyes darting to the entries she uncovered. The numbers you seek, they reveal histories that were meant to be lost. They twist your fate, jeopardize everything you love. You don't understand the implications of what you're holding. A chill ran through her, but determination surged alongside it. What happened to you? His hands trembled as he drew back. I learned too much, and they sent me away. It's a dark path, Emma. A path lined with shadows. Frustration welled up, she couldn't back down now. I have to know. I can't let fear shape my choices. What's out there? Emma said, clenching her fists. The scholar faltered between wanting to protect her and the knowledge that she might not heed it. He was silent for a moment, weighing the consequences of his next words. The mad ones, he finally whispered, the terror palpable in the air. Those who guard the old truths. They come for you, just as they did me. I thought I could control it, understand it. But all I did was invite madness into my life. With every second that ticked by, Emma felt the threat close in. The words hung heavy in the air. What were the mad ones? Why was she drawn to this dark tapestry of knowledge? The candle flickered violently, casting monstrous silhouettes on the walls. The scholar took a step backward, terror etched on his face. You need to flee, now leave this behind before it consumes you. But Emma's resolve hardened, she would not run. She would dig deeper. What if within that tangled history lay the answers to her own family's past, long riddled with mystery? As the door stubbornly creaked open, echoing behind him, the scholar shot her one last look. You might regret this choice. Remember, some paths are not just dangerous, they are fated. You don't know who you might awaken, he warned, disappearing into the night. The night thickened, tension tightening like a noose. Emma glanced down and saw the scriptures almost pulsating with energy. What secret simmered beneath the surface, just waiting to be unleashed? With her heart racing, she reached for another page, compelled by an insatiable hunger for truth. Just one more revelation, and the world might never be the same again. What lies ahead is more terrifying than she could imagine, but the stakes have never been higher. Just how far was she willing to go for knowledge? The candle dimmed, and a faint whisper echoed, pulling her forward into the abyss. Emma's fingers brushed against the parchment, each stroke igniting a thrill that coursed through her veins. The symbols glowed brighter, urging her to focus. A voice in her mind whispered to her, teasing her with promises of knowledge that lay just within reach. She drew in a deep breath, brushing aside the scholar's warning like a pesky fly. Suddenly, a gust of wind howled through the cracks in the old walls, extinguishing her candle. Darkness enveloped her, thick and suffocating, urging panic to rise. She felt her heartbeat quicken, each thump a reminder of her vulnerability. But the darkness also heightened her senses. She could hear the faint sound of whispers, like the rustling of leaves in an unseen breeze. What were they saying? Were the mad ones already here? Emma fumbled around her, her fingers skimming over the table's edge until they found another candle stub. She struck a match, the flame flickering to life with a fierce intensity, illuminating her surroundings once more. She peered at the pages before her, their shapes almost shifting in the glow. The whispers grew louder, each syllable wrapping around her like an invisible thread. Emma, the voice called, familiar yet foreign. Was it the scholar, or someone else entirely? Was it a warning or a lure? Who is there? She called out, her voice tinged with defiance. Silence followed, stretching like a taut string ready to snap. The glow danced unnaturally, casting shadows that coiled along the walls, creating shapes that felt all too alive. She squinted, trying to see through the deepening darkness, every instinct screaming for her to run, but something in her wouldn't allow it. Her feet felt rooted to the floor as if the very essence of the book was binding her, pulling her closer to its secrets. The urge to understand outweighed the dread curling in her stomach. She lifted the candle, directing its light towards the most elaborate symbols. Breathing heavily as the light chased away the shadows, she deciphered their meaning with a growing sense of dread. The stories were of forgotten worlds, of ancient beings, guardians of dark knowledge, the mad ones. With every figure she recognized, a chill wrapped around her spine. Above all, one figure stood out, a silhouette reminiscent of her mentor, eyes dark like the abyss. Emma, the voice returned, softer, almost pleading. You cannot control what you are about to uncover. They are closer than you think. Panic surged as she realized the weight of what she was holding, the illustrations of power and destruction reflecting back at her. This wasn't merely about understanding the past. It was a key to something alive and cruel. Something that could awaken. Stop! She shouted, the command echoing into the oppressive silence. But deep inside, she knew she wasn't talking to the shadows or any voice in her head. She was warning herself. Just then, a crack echoed from the door. Someone was trying to enter. She strained her ears, heart racing. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approached through the darkness. Emma. The door burst open, slamming against the wall. It was a figure with urgency written on their face. You need to get out. Now. Emma's body tensed, trapped between the choice of running away from the knowledge she craved or facing the very darkness that threatened to consume her. But the shadows around her seemed to writhe, eager and hungry. What have you done? The figure gasped, eyes wide with a mix of horror and understanding. They're here. Everything she had fought for, every step taken, crashed into a single realization. Protection came at a price, and knowledge had its consequences. As the walls quivered with ominous whispers, the weight of the impending confrontation loomed. Just how much truth could she handle? And at what cost? With the candle flickering uncertainly, Emma took a step forward, the shadows beckoning her deeper into the unknown. What awaited her might just awaken the sleeping mad ones, and there was no going back now. The air in the room thickened, an almost palpable tension buzzing between them. Emma's heart raced faster than her thoughts. The stranger's eyes darted nervously around the room, as if expecting the shadows to leap out at them any moment. Who are you? Emma demanded, defiance seeping into her voice. What do you know about the mad ones? Her fear turned into a flicker of anger. I know more than you can imagine, the figure replied, breathless, their face half lit by the candle's glow. But now is not the time for questions. We need to leave. Why? I need to understand, she insisted, her voice cracking slightly at the edges. The symbols on the pages seemed to pulse in response to her determination. They were alive, just as the whispers had promised. That in an instant, everything shifted. The shadows warped and twisted, thickening in the corners as if drawn by her resistance. A chittering sound began, echoing like claws scraping across wood, crawling like spiders in the recesses of her mind. Do you hear that? Emma whispered, her bravado faltering. The room hummed with an energy that felt both electric and sinister. They're here, I can feel them. The figure nodded grimly and stepped closer, lowering their voice. Listen to me. The book is cursed. It's a beacon to the mad ones. You have no idea what you're inviting into this world. Emma hesitated. Dark tales about the mad ones had always been just that, stories meant to scare children into obedience. But the glow on the parchment felt ominous now, as if the words could reach out and consume her. Perhaps I do have an idea, she said slowly. They're powerful. They're hungry. The figure cut her off, their tone urgent. And they will stop at nothing to reclaim what belongs to them. A crash sounded outside the door, and both turned instinctively toward the noise. A violent thud echoed, muffled voices rising and falling in an anxious rhythm. Those weren't just the mad ones, something was after them and they were drawing nearer. Without thinking, Emma scooped up the book and clutched it to her chest. It felt hotter against her skin, almost alive. I can't just leave this behind, she said fiercely, yet deep down, doubt gnawed at her. The figure's gaze was intense, searing into her like a brand. You must. It's a trap, Emma. The knowledge you seek will only lead to pain and loss. This is not just about you anymore. The door shuddered again, slamming against the wall as it burst open. Relief flooded through Emma, swiftly followed by dread as two dark silhouettes filled the doorway, their eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Run!" the figure shouted, pushing Emma toward the far side of the room. She hesitated, fear and curiosity battling inside her, but the urgency in their voice fought louder. The truth she sought was becoming clearer at a dreadfully steep price. As they backed away, the shadows pooled around them, whispering promises of power and truth, but Emma felt a pulse of primal fear. What had she unleashed? With a last glance at the book, she felt the pull of its secrets, locking her in place for a split second. But the figures surged forward with terrifying speed, and she felt the man's grip on her wrist tighten as they turned and fled. Outside, the night air was sharp and electric. The moon hung low, casting a silver light, illuminating their path, but shadows lurked just beyond. Fear wrapped itself around her, threaded through her very soul. "Where do we go now?" Emma panted, glancing back at the door, still trembling from the encounter. "Somewhere safe," the figure said, their voice steady but filled with urgency. "But first, we must outsmart them. If they know what we know, if they find the book, everything will change." As they rounded the corner, Emma felt the shadows reaching for them behind, the whispers growing louder, echoing her name. The knowledge she had once sought felt more like a curse now. And with every passing moment, the weight of that truth hung heavier in the air. She had awakened them. What had come before was only the beginning. But the true horror would soon reveal itself. Would they outrun the encroaching darkness? Or would the mad ones claim what was rightfully theirs? The pavement felt cold beneath Emma's feet as they sprinted down the dimly lit alley. The air was thick with urgency, the chills slicing through her like icy fingers. She stole a quick glance back, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. The silhouettes were still there, emerging into the narrow spaces between buildings, a haunting echo of inevitability. "Faster!" the figure urged, their grip on her wrist tightening. The urgency in their voice sent her adrenaline skyrocketing. They dashed around a corner, the shadows trailing behind them murky and indistinct, yet somehow palpably threatening. "Where are we going?" she gasped, the words spilling out between ragged breaths. "What do we do?" The figure's face was partially obscured by the darkness, but she could sense the weight of their fear. "We need to find the relic. It's our only chance." Their eyes flicked toward her, and in that moment, a deep resolve sparkled within them. "It has the power to protect us from the mad ones, if we can make it in time." "The relic?" Emma questioned, her mind racing, still trying to grasp the implications of everything that had transpired. "What relic? And where?" "An old temple, it's hidden nearby. The book led you to it, it created a path only you can see. Follow the ink, Emma." Those final words hung in the air like a spell. Emma's mind raced, recalling the symbols threaded through the pages, weaving together stories that danced at the edge of her consciousness. "But I don't understand. Why me?" As they rounded another corner, the shadows seemed to pulse with fury behind them, a dark wall closing in. Her breath quickened, the looming dread chasing her as if it had a body, a will of its own. "Because it chose you," the figure exclaimed, urgency spilling from their lips. "You're the key. Only you can wield its power." A flash of desperation ignited in Emma as confusion swirled inside her like a storm. She felt the oppressive weight of responsibility crashing in waves. What did that even mean? "Emma," the figure urged, breaking into her chaotic thoughts. "Trust me. Concentrate. The book can guide you." They sprinted through an archway, and Emma felt a sudden rush of air, an electric sensation, as though they decrossed into another world. For a moment, everything was silent. The deep echoes of their footsteps bounced off aged stones, and she could feel the heat radiating from the book pressed against her chest. There, in the dim light, stood the temple, ancient and foreboding. Symbols carved into the stone glowed softly, as if welcoming her, seducing her closer. "Wait!" she cried, her heart racing. "What if the mad ones follow us here?" The figure stopped abruptly, their face twisted in contemplation. We don't have much time. It's now or never. She could hear them lurking in the distance, claws scraping against stone, their whispers taunting her. Emma felt heat pooling in her belly, but it was fear that directed her movements. Okay. Let us go. As they approached the entrance, the air grew thicker, almost alive with anticipation. She felt the book's pulse matching her own hurried heartbeat, a rhythm growing faster, more frantic. Just as they stepped inside the temple, she heard a deafening roar outside, like a storm crashing against the gates. The shadows poured into the entrance like malevolent waves seeking vengeance, their whispers rising to a cacophony. Emma clutched the book tighter, feeling the power within it tremble in response. What now? She yelled, panic surging as the darkness loomed closer. Speak the words inscribed on the first page. The figure shouted, urgency lacing their voice. Are you insane? What if it's a trap? Do it. With no time to think, she opened the book, the familiar symbols glowing bright against a backdrop of inky black. She steeled herself and began to read aloud. The words flowed from her lips, enveloping her like a cloak of fiery warmth. The shadows paused, shuddering at her voice, as if they understood the incantation's power, but even as she spoke, a creeping dread crawled up her spine. What was she awaking with those words? The walls began to tremble, resonating with the weight of her intentions. With every syllable uttered, the darkness receded, yet more was drawn forward in answer, a battle of wills, and she had no idea who would win. Emma. The figure's voice broke through. Keep going. It's responding. Every word ignited a spark of hope, but also an unsettling fear. What had she unleashed with her curiosity? Suddenly, the whispers contorted into screams, and shadows shifted violently, breaking apart as a terrible roar echoed within the temple. She finished the incantation, breathless, staring into the abyss of the growing darkness. But in that wild, swirling chaos, a light emerged, a blinding flash illuminating the path ahead, revealing something that hadn't been there moments before. What is this force? What lies beyond its glow? She felt her heart racing anew. Emma knew the answers were now just within reach, but at what cost? The flash of light filled the temple, blinding Emma momentarily. She stumbled backward, a wave of confusion flooding her senses. The shadows convulsed, thrashing against the illuminated walls, seeming to writhe in agony. Silence wrapped around her like a shroud, broken only by the pounding of her heart. What is happening? She gasped, struggling to focus as the figure beside her tightened their grip. Stay close. They commanded, their voice steady despite the chaos. That light, it's revealing the path. The air hummed with energy. Emma squinted, trying to discern what the light highlighted. Shapes began tightening, coiling around one another like serpents caught in a fire. As she took a few hesitant steps forward, she saw an altar at the center of the temple, adorned with intricate patterns and strange artifacts that pulsed with a warm glow. The relic waited atop it, shining brighter than anything she had ever seen. Is that it? She breathed, awe flooding her voice. Yes. But we need to reach it before the mad ones figure out how to enter. The figure's urgency jolted her back into the moment. Around them, whispers thickened, transforming into a low growl that echoed through the stone. The shadows bunched together, forming ghostly figures with eyes like emeralds, glinting with malice. Here they come. The figure tugged at Emma, pulling her toward the altar. Just a little further. With each step, Emma felt a surge of energy from the book. Words and symbols spiraled in her mind, but clarity eluded her. It was as though the revelations from the incantation were swirling around her, wanting to break free. Suddenly, a flicker of doubt cut through her confidence. What if we can't control it? What if it consumes us? Her voice trembled. The figure turned to her, desperation etched on their face. We have no choice. This is our only chance. If we fail, they will take everything from us. That sent a bolt of determination through her. She squared her shoulders, shaking off fear. Okay, we go for it. As they darted toward the altar, the figures of shadows began rushing at them from the walls, a storm of darkness intent on enclosing them. Emma could feel the heat of their rage boiling over, almost suffocating. Can it hear us? She shouted against the growing noise. No. But it can sense our fear. Don't give in. They reached the altar, the light surrounding it pulsing like a heartbeat. Emma glanced at the relican orb, swirling with an amber glow that twisted and spiraled like flames licking the edges of a dimming light. Touch it. The figure urged, fear and hope interwoven in their eyes. She extended her right hand, trembling as the power radiated from the orb, a warm embrace inviting her. But even as she moved closer, the shadows surged forward, clawing and screeching, determined to lash out. Now! The figure shouted, their voice slicing through the chaos. Emma couldn't hesitate. She reached down, her fingers brushing against the surface. Instantly, a shockwave erupted, knocking her back against the altar. The world spun wildly, and she felt herself being swept away into a whirlpool of colors and sounds. Emma! The figure cried, but their voice faded into the tumult. Dizziness enveloped her, a vortex of darkness threatening to drag her under. And then silence. Emma opened her eyes. The temple had vanished. Instead, she stood in a vast, empty space, one devoid of time or direction, staring down at her shaking hands, where the book lay open, revealing symbols she'd never seen before. What did it do? She whispered. As she dawned upon the enormity of what had transpired, a flicker of deep understanding washed over her. The shadows weren't just dark, they were fragments of herself, lost pieces that the book had compelled her to confront, but somewhere in that vast emptiness, she sensed formidable eyes watching, patient and eternal, waiting for the moment when she would become whole again. What power resided so deep within her that the darkness itself was afraid? And how would she wield it against the mad ones, who were still hunting her? The answers lie ahead, wrapped in shadows and light, poised to reveal a truth that would shatter everything she believed. The void pulsed around Emma, a living silence that pressed against her. Floating in that emptiness, she felt weightless, as if gravity had abandoned her. It should have been terrifying, but instead, a strange calm washed over her. She closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth radiating from the book still cradled in her hands. Instinctually, she knew that whatever lay ahead was intertwined with that ancient text. That a low sound began to resonate in the distance, a rhythmic beat that felt like the very heart of the universe. Each pulse vibrated through her, igniting a fire inside that she had never known existed. The shadows she confronted were not mere enemies but parts of her own chaos, fear, regret, and everything she had tried to bury. The realization struck her like lightning. What if I can find a way to control them? She whispered, opening her eyes again. Before her, a cascade of symbols erupted from the book, swirling into the air like spectacular fireworks. They floated, ominously familiar yet utterly incomprehensible. Emma reached out, her fingers grazing the closest symbol. It sparked, sending a shock of energy rippling through her. She gasped as power surged from the book to her core. Suddenly, a new figure emerged from the darkness, stepping into the light of the symbols. Their silhouette was sharp, and as they drew closer, Emma recognized them. It was the figure she had been with in the temple. "Thank goodness you're here!" they exclaimed, eyes wide with urgency. "You did it. You've awakened the book's energy. But you have to focus. When you embrace it, you risk everything, and the mad ones will be here soon." "Why can't I just run?" Emma said, panic bubbling within her. "We've already lost them once, right? We can escape again." "No." Their voice echoed with a finality that quaked through the space. "You cannot run from yourself. The mad ones want to consume your energy. If you leave, they will gain access to what you've unleashed. You must master it, or attend to the shadows within you." The words sank deep, rooting themselves in her mind like heavy stone. The echoes of her own self-doubt intensified, clawing at her resolve. Could she really face those shadows? With a determined breath, Emma regarded the symbols swirling in the air. She needed to claim what was hers. "All right," she stated, her voice steadying like a ship against the tide. "Teach me. How do I embrace this power?" The figure extended their hand toward the symbols, and Emma mirrored them. As their fingers connected, the symbols brightened, illuminating the void with a golden hue. Emma gasped. The shadows around them twisted, reluctant but also drawn to the emerging light. "Now, let the fear flow through you," the figure instructed, their voice both soothing and firm. "Accept it. You are not just the light. You are also the darkness." With gritted teeth, Emma shut her eyes and allowed every ounce of fear to wash over her. It crashed into her like waves, relentless and overwhelming. She felt her physical form begin to quiver, her heart raced, and sweat beaded on her forehead. Then she spoke, her voice rising above the noise of her doubts, "I am not afraid. I am not just light. I am everything. I claim my darkness." As she said the words, a whirlwind of energy erupted around her. The shadows began to converge, swirling into a vortex at her feet. With each pulse of her words, they formed a barrier, shielding her from an oncoming threat she could sense approaching fast. "Now the mad ones can feel you," the figure shouted, their once steady demeanor wavering. "You must channel your energy to keep them at bay. Focus." Emma's heart raced as she fought against the hopelessness creeping in. The shadows howled, a cacophony of rage and despair. But amidst the turmoil, she felt the power within her intensify. It threaded through her veins, a burning vine growing stronger with each breath she took. Suddenly, the darkness shuddered around her, and just beyond the horizon of the void, a pair of glowing emerald eyes emerged, fixated and hungry. The mad ones were near. "Hold steady," the figure urged, a note of desperation creeping in. Could she really harness the very essence of her fears against that looming threat? Emma took a deep breath and steadied her thoughts, ready to beckon the storm that swirled within her. Time was short and all that lay ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. Would she be able to wield this newfound power before the shadows consumed her whole, and would it even be enough to protect herself from the mad ones? The pulsing energy around Emma transformed, shifting from chaotic to focused. She felt raw power coursing through her, a wildfire of determination. The emerald eyes, gleaming like twin lanterns in a dark forest, bore down on her, relentless and predatory. "I can feel them," she gasped, the vibration of her voice resonating in the void. "They're closer." "Yes," the figure urged, urgency threading through their words. "Now is the time. Call upon the energy, Emma. Draw from what you've just embraced." With each heartbeat, the looming presence of the mad ones felt heavier, like a weight pressing against her chest. The shadows swirled around her feet, whispering doubts she had fought to silence. But there was no denying it now, these were her doubts, her fears. She had to wield them, not flee. Emma inhaled sharply and leaned into the energy that crackled in the air. "You are not my end," she shouted, infusing the words with defiance. The shadows flared, echoing her resolve. The symbols danced more vigorously, pulsating in hues of gold and blue, almost as if they were alive. "Yes, that's it," the figure encouraged. "Harness your darkness. Find the balance." Emma widened her stance, drawing strength from the ground beneath her. She wouldn't let the mad ones devour her spirit. They were drawn to her essence, her flaws and insecurities, but she realized those very shadows became a source of her strength. She was both light and dark, and together, they forged an indomitable force. "Bring it on!" she cried, voice echoing like thunder. The shadows converged, forming a shield around her that flickered with energy. It pulsed, resonating with the rhythm from the book, creating a barrier that shimmered with a life of its own. And just as she felt this strength solidify, a chilling shriek sliced through the air. The mad ones surged forward, a roaring tide of darkness that threatened to drown her shield. Emma held her ground, her eyes locked onto the emeralds glaring at her. You don't scare me. She yelled. You're nothing but echoes of what I've already faced. The words ignited something deep within her, and for the first time, she felt unity with the fears she had once tried to hide. A blast of energy erupted as she unleashed a wave of power, her voice interweaving with the symbols. They spiraled around her, bright and fierce, rebuffing the encroaching shadows. The vortex roared as tendrils of her energy met dark mouths of despair, but just then, a voice cut through the chaos. You might think you've gained control, but you're merely stalling, girl. It was a melodic whisper, both enticing and cruel, emanating from the depths of the shadows. The mad ones were speaking, weaving their insidious thoughts into her mind. You really believe you can conquer us? You've only just begun to understand your power. Emma's heart pounded. Their words were laced with venom, probing at her insecurities. You don't know me. She shouted, yet doubt gnawed at her resolve. Could she truly wield this power in the presence of such darkness? She could feel it, their hunger to consume, and suddenly the weight of her own doubts threatened to pull her down. Threads of insecurity wove through her thoughts, reminding her of the failures she tried to forget. No. I won't give in. She screamed, clenching her fists tightly around the book. The symbols flared more intensely, and the ground trembled beneath her. I am more than what you think. As she unleashed that proclamation, the energy exploded outward, creating a brilliant storm of light. The shadows writhed, fought back, but something shifted in the air. She could feel the tide turning, yet, as the chaos ensued, the shadows recoiled, revealing something else, dark shapes moving in the distance, and they weren't alone. What now? The figure asked, their tone shifting from urgency to dread. Emma squinted, focusing on a mass emerging through the dark, a swirling form, erupting with a familiar resonance. Her heart dropped. They were coming. Emma, we must prepare. The figure shouted, desperate urgency in their eyes. The truth of the book is more than you can imagine, more fearsome and enlightening. Could she truly control this newfound power against the shadows within and what awaited her just beyond the veil? Emma's heart raced, pounding like a drum in her chest. The shadows twisted and writhed, revealing figures that grew closer, grasping tendrils of darkness reaching for her. The energy she had summoned pulsed wildly, illuminating the space around her with a fierce radiance. No longer just a beacon of hope, it turned into a blinding shield that shimmered like the surface of a lake at dawn. What are they? She gasped, struggling to peer beyond the electric barriers she had erected. The figures shifted, forming recognizable outlines that sent shivers down her spine. Faces long thought forgotten danced within the murk, glinting with cruel snickers and silent screams. Their echoes of the past, the figure beside her hissed, pain lacing their words. Shadows that feed on regret and fear. If you don't confront them, they may consume you. Emma's gaze flickered back to the encroaching darkness, where the twisted forms stretched out, desperate and clawing. I've faced them before, I want to let them win again. She declared, digging her heels into the ground, on fire with defiance. The whispers of the mad one surrounded her, filling her ears with a cacophony of doubt. You're just a scared girl. You can't possibly think you're stronger than us. Remember when you failed? Remember when you were left behind? The voices roared, and she felt the current of despair threaten to sweep her off her feet. Memories of past failures flooded her mind, moments when she had cowered in the shadows, too afraid to act. But then the figures began to waver, the light from within her bathed them in clarity. No. She shouted against the swell of despair. Those moments don't define me any longer. The book vibrated violently in her hands, the symbols radiating warmth that chased away the darkness. They responded to her fury, glowing with a power that felt ancient and limitless. Use it, Emma. Let the truth of the book guide you. The figure urged, clearly anxious yet filled with hope. In a moment of fluid instinct, Emma tore her focus away from the figures and directed her will towards the book. Reveal your power. She cried, and the pages fluttered wildly, revealing a passage she had never noticed before. a swirling passage of light and shadow. Suddenly, the air shimmered with energy, illuminating the space around her. The shapes within the darkness paused, pulsing as if considering this new force. She boldly stepped forward, allowing the energy to envelop her, daring the shadows to challenge her will. And then she understood this was not simply a battle of light versus darkness. It was a confrontation of acceptance. She wasn't here to banish the shadows, she was here to acknowledge them, to find peace amidst the chaos they caused. "Listen to me," Emma shouted, her voice rising above the din. "I know you. You are part of me, and until I accept you, I can never truly be free." A silence fell, a heavy pause where even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. There was a flicker, something shifted in the ominous pulse that surrounded them. She felt the swirling energy contract, and instead of pushing back against the figures, she inhaled deeply, drawing from the very essence that once made her feel weak. Just then, a mix of laughter and sorrow echoed through the void. "You think accepting us is the answer?" The voice slithered through her, seductive, yet layered with a terrifying truth. "But what if you cannot survive the truth?" Emma steeled herself. "I may not know everything, but I refuse to hide in fear any longer. Show me." The atmosphere thickened as if reality itself was holding its breath, and in that pregnant moment, she felt an overwhelming rush of cold clarity wash over her. Something massive moved beyond the edge of shadows, deeper and more sinister than the mad ones. "Emma," the figure warned. "Whatever you think you know, it's not what it seems." With a sense of doom draping over her, she caught sight of glistening eyes reflecting helplessness, and the unmistakable flicker of understanding crept into her heart. But before she could process what lay ahead, the air exploded with energy and shadows surged, their howling creating a storm of despair that threatened to swallow them whole. "Not like this!" she screamed, bracing for an impact unlike anything she had ever faced. What was the truth lurking in the depths of the book? And could she summon the strength to confront what came next? Emma's breath hitched in her throat, the darkness swirling and choking her, tightening its grip, but somewhere in that chaos, she found her resolve. She would not let it consume her. "I accept you," she shouted, her voice echoing with newfound strength. "All of you. I will not run." The shadows faltered, shifting slightly as if unsure how to respond. Deep within, some part of Emma recognized that this battle wasn't against an external force, it was about reconciling the fragments of herself. The whispers softened, their chaotic melodies mingling with a moment of eerie stillness. But the weight of the emerald eyes loomed, unblinking, predatory. "Emma, be careful." The figure called out, their urgency igniting threads of her own fear. "This will expose the truth behind the shadows. You must be prepared for what's revealed." Dread pooled in her stomach, yet determination surged within her. "I've faced fear before," she reminded herself. "I can do this." The air grew heavy, charged with energy as shadows shifted, a swirling mass, longing for connection yet hostile at the same time. In that moment, Emma felt interconnectedness tugging at her heartstrings. The shadows were part of her story, complex and tangled. With a deep breath, she raised her chin and declared, "I choose to embrace you, not fear you." As if spurred by her declaration, the shadows morphed, taking on memories, faces lost, moments filled with doubt, pain and love, all flickering through the smoky haze. Long-lost family, laugh lines on familiar faces, a glimpse of who she had been before the darkness veiled her light too long. "Face it," the figure urged, their expression a fierce mix of admiration and concern. "This is truth, unbound and unforgiving." The shadows began to shift, swirling madly as if caught in a maelstrom of emotions, each face looking at her with a deeply empathic gaze. Emma's heart ached as these remnants of the past began to merge with her present, each regret, every fear woven into the fabric of her being. The pain felt familiar yet profound, laced with morality, lessons waiting to be unraveled. "I won't forget you," she called out again, her voice cracking as she faced the swirling chaos. "You shaped me, but you won't define me." The energy enveloped her, surging like a tidal wave as the shadows seemed to recoil, those familiar faces transforming, light spilling from their edges. Yes. The figure beside her shouted, the exuberance creeping into their tone. You're reclaiming your power. Hold it firm. The emerald eyes flared, burning with intensity as the shadows writhed in acknowledgement. Emma felt a surge of warmth blossom from within. She could feel the dark echoing sentiments of her past fading away, but not entirely. This fusion established roots, interlacing her heart with new resolve. Suddenly, the shadows spiraled together, coalescing into a vortex that swirled with an absorbing tension. The mad ones howled, their presence hauntingly palpable as they surged toward her, insistent and ravenous for control. The glint in their emerald eyes was a visceral reminder that the hunt was far from over. No! Emma shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony of chaos. You will not take me. I am whole. She stretched her arms wide, feeling the radiant warmth stream through her veins. The swirling symbols from the book began to spiral around her, illuminating the encroaching darkness, painting the walls with fierce shades of gold and blue. With one powerful chant, she invoked the light trapped inside the book, the symbols reaching higher and higher until they exploded outward, splintering the shadows. Shockwaves rippled through the ruins, the very elements resonating with the force of her declaration. The shadows trembled, and Emma felt the wind shift as the energy expanded. Now reveal yourselves! She exclaimed, as the vortex transformed, illuminating the space with waves of shimmering light that made the darkness recede, ushering in a new era, one tethered in acceptance and understanding. Suddenly, figures emerged from the light, familiar faces transformed by wisdom and warmth, their forms vibrant and alive. They smiled, acknowledging her courage with pride in their eyes, and she felt the ultimate release, the burden of the past extinguished in wisdom-laden acceptance. You are free, a voice echoed through the brightening air, and Emma glanced back, eyes wide with disbelief. The figure beside her wore a look of affirmation. Now, embrace your legacy. As the emerald eyes dimmed, the mad ones released their hold, confusion underlying their echoes. They faded like the shadows they were, drawn into the bright light now flooding the temple. Emma gasped, the realization dawning she wasn't merely the bearer of dark secrets, she possessed the ability to redefine her legacy. It's over. The truth will no longer hold me captive. She proclaimed, her voice steady with newfound conviction, and just as the last flicker of darkness slipped away, Emma stood triumphantly embraced by shimmering light. The shadows transformed, turning into memories of hope and resilience. The book pulsed quietly in her hands, alive with transformed energy, remnants of knowledge still waiting to be shared, but now wrapped in clarity rather than fear. Where do we go from here? The figure inquired, their voice brimming with excitement. Emma glanced around, soaking in the surreal beauty of her triumph. We go where the light leads us, she declared, smiling brightly. The past has shaped us, but it doesn't bind us. Together, we'll write the next chapter, where fear no longer shadows truth. As they stepped forward into the new dawn, Emma's heart radiated with the warmth of hope. She had embraced the dark and the light, wielding a power far beyond what she once thought possible, a testament to resilience, and a promise to share the story yet to be told. And with that, they stepped into the void, ready to reclaim their destiny. But the journey had only just begun. If you're still with me, listeners, now is the time to act. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next epic adventure in our journey through the unknown. Smash that like button now to help us take this channel to new heights. Flood the comments section with your reactions and thoughts about Emma's powerful revelation. And you need to share this video with at least 5 friends who could be inspired by her story. Don't wait even one more second. Let us light up the world with these tales together.